And we're off. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to the live All Dolphins podcast. Recap, breakdown, autopsy, probably be a better word, of the Dolphins' stinker of a performance on opening day, 33-8 loss against the Indianapolis Colts, which was every bit as lopsided as it was. We talked about entering the question. Before I start rambling on further, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. And as I was about to say, we entered the season with a lot of questions regarding the Miami Dolphins. Not a whole lot of answers provided on this particular day, maybe even more questions. And I made the statement, this is not the most lopsided loss in Dolphin history on opening day. It might be the most disappointing one, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I think my assertion was this was the worst loss of the McDaniel era. I don't know if it is by like margin, but like what my eyeballs told me, this felt like the worst loss of the McDaniel era. Tua doesn't get hurt. There's no backup quarterback shenanigans until they pull him for garbage time for Zach Wilson. So like, to me, like, just what I saw on the field, this was the worst performance I think the Dolphins have had under McDaniel, where you didn't have a backup quarterback playing the majority of the game.
No, and it was butt ugly. And let's get this out of the way, because so much of the focus always is too much on the quarterback. And I push back against Tua winning games. Tua didn't lose this game. Tua didn't play well at all. Yeah. But you find me many players on the Dolphins who did. Good luck. I can count one who stands out to me as having a good game. That's Devon Achane. Outside of that, I challenge you. Good luck. Find me somebody. Eskridge had a couple of nice kickoff returns. Outside of that, anybody else really play well?
I don't think so. And I wrote this in the recap that's up on Dolphins on SI right now. You can go check it out. Like, I don't really know that there's
free.
Yeah, there you go. For free. How about that plug? But like, I wrote this in the recap. I don't really know if there's any positives to take away from this game. Really, like, I don't. Like, I'd love to give Devon Achane credit for averaging 7 yards per carry. I think he ended up getting, but like, I mean, the Colts didn't care. Like, it didn't matter. Like,
right.
Like the Colts were just like, yeah, sure, dude, whatever. Like, so I don't know that there's any positives to take away from this game. I really don't. I don't think that anybody on, maybe when I dig into the film tomorrow, there's one or two players who had a positive performance, perhaps. I have no idea. But like, generally, like, as much as I could see from Sunday, I don't know that there's a single player that you can really hang your hat on. I mean, Achane statistically was fine, I guess, but like, the running game itself really didn't matter because they fell behind by so much so quickly. The receivers, chemistry-wise, didn't look like it was there with Tua at all. Tua himself wasn't very good. The offensive line, I think, is probably going to take a bit more of the blame on some of the pressures than they deserve. I think a couple of those were on the running back, a couple of those were on the tight end, a couple of them were on Tua. So like, but they weren't good either. I'm not trying to defend them full-heartedly. And then defensively, like, all three levels I thought were terrible. I don't really know that there's a single redeeming performance there. I'd be shocked if I find one in the tape tomorrow. So all negatives, in my opinion. I don't really know. To me, this is a burn the tape game. You light it on fire and you try to move on and play week 2 against the Patriots.
Well, thanks for this cheerful recap there, Dante. Holy moly. No, and here's the thing is, when I said the Dolphins entered the season with a lot of question marks, and I know a lot of the media, not fans, and a lot of the media too, were pumping the tires of this front seven. Like, I know you guys know I love him, but Chris Perkins was asking players about, could this be like one of the best front sevens in the NFL? And I'm like, dude, whoa, slow your roll. Why? Yeah, they all have promise, but let's see it happen on the field first before we crown them. And the pass rush, where was the pass rush? I mean, Bradley Chubb had the 1 sack on the day, and that was pretty much it. And props to the Colts who came on. I think a lot of us expected there was going to be a whole lot of Jonathan Taylor early on, and boom, it's nothing but passes. And the guy looked good. And this is why I said before the game, no, Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback. He's a major question mark. Underestimate that Colts team at your own peril. That's not a bad team. And you saw that. I mean, overall, they're not a bad team at all. The Dolphins obviously made them look a lot better probably than they really are. But I think this notion the Dolphins were just going to come in there. And by the way, For the records, the first opening day loss for the Dolphins since 2020 when they lost 21-11 at New England, the COVID year. And it's the first win for the Colts on opening day since 2013. Now, it was like win for Jim, do it for the boss. They had T-shirts all over the place at Lucas Oil Stadium. I said that was an X factor to me. Whether that played into it, probably to only a very small degree. But clearly this was bad from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins came out and that first drive, right? Indianapolis goes right down the field. They hold them to a field goal, but not really a ton of resistance on that drive. And then the second drive, I mean, James Daniels goes down on the third play of the game for the Dolphins on offense. And then 2 plays later, Tua sails a pass that we've probably seen him complete that pass to Tyreek Hill, 90 times in the past 3 years. And he just sails it right into Cam Bynum's hands. And the game was practically over at that point. That was essentially the end of the game. I mean, the Colts scored, the Dolphins fumbled on the ensuing drive. They scored again. And it just went downhill very quickly. And I think I don't want to get too much into overreaction territory. It's a week 1 game. It is what it is. They were terrible. I'm not trying to defend them at all. I think what worries me more than any of the specifics that we've kind of talked about is I didn't see a lot of fight. This was not a team to me that I don't know.
How would it manifest itself, though? That's the thing, because you're not the only one who said that. It's all over social media. Dolphin fans are they were uninspired and all that, and I'm like, okay, what would it have looked like had they not been deficient?
I'm thinking about those last Colts drives where they're just running through the teeth of the defense, 4th and 1. They're going for it up by 28. You can't get a stop to save your life. They didn't stop them once, not a single time. And it's even when the game was out of reach, you couldn't get a pity stop. Truly, you've watched enough football. That happens at the end of games, right? The team just goes into a shell. They run 3 straight halfback dives, pick up 4 yards and punt when they're up by 30. The Colts were trying to do that, and they just kept getting 9-8-yard chunks on the ground. And I don't again, I'm not saying that this was some I don't know that effort was abysmal or anything like that, but it felt to me as if this team went down early and they just there was really no point in this game where they felt like they picked themselves up at all. There was not even a little bit of momentum that they generated. I think the closest they got was when they got the turnover on downs, when they creeped into Indy territory early in the middle of the third quarter, right? And then they had 3 straight plays where Tua wasn't on the same page or made a bad throw or whatever it ended up being. They turned over on downs at the Colt, it was the 34 or something. They just, I don't know. I didn't see a ton of fight. I'm not I don't really that stuff's a little bit overrated to me. But again, I just, you'd like to see this game end. Not that it matters a ton, 33-14, or, you get a stop 30-14, right? It's a blowout either way. It's disappointing either way, but I mean, you can't even get 1 stop against the Colts. Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe the Colts are a little bit underrated, but this is not a team that's supposed to be a juggernaut. You can't get 1 stop.
No, correct. And like you said, and to me, it was, props to Shane Steichen for going for it, because one that shocked me was it at the 42-yard line late in the first half, where I think a lot of coaches would just punt and pin the Dolphins back, and he went for it, and it was an easy pitch and catch at Josh Downs. And then the Dolphins, in addition to being bad with the execution, Tua was off on a couple of throws that were not intercepted. He had Tyreek Hill on the sideline where he overthrew him a little bit, forced him out of bounds. Malik Washington, that sequence that ended with the turnover on downs, the one before that, he let him a little bit too much. Could Malik have made the catch without leaving his feet? I don't know. But again, that's a throw that normally Tua would be more accurate on. So he was completely off. And this is where maybe we're going to go back. The Dolphin offensive system is built on rhythm, chemistry, timing with Tua and his receivers, and to where, again, everything is clockwork through massive number of reps. Not having Tyreek throughout pretty much the entire preseason probably didn't help. Was it the main reason? No, it wasn't the main reason. It was just off. And then situationally, it's 4th and 2. You get a running into the kicker penalty.
That was their only stop of the game. That undid their only defensive stop of the game. Right.
And then you have First and 30, and Jack Jones gets called for a holding. I mean, defensive holding. Be aware of the situation. Seriously. It was just bad on bad on bad on bad. I mean, I can't. It's just I don't know. And I know Dolphin fans are like already ready to throw in the towel. The only thing I will say, it's one game. They get the Patriots at home next Sunday. Patriots lost at home against the Raiders. So while we expect the Patriots to be good toward the end of the season, they gave up 362 yards passing to Geno Smith on this particular day. So I would say let's not throw in the towel on the season just yet. Understanding it's probably not going to be clear sailing to 12-5, as maybe the most optimistic of Dolphin fans or media members might have suggested. Nothing to say.
I got nothing to add. Like, what is there to add outside of like, yeah, right. You don't want to overreact, right? It's one game. Like I said, I think you go in this week, you burn the tape. It's just we were terrible. We need to start over, basically. With our, McDaniel loves to talk about fundamentals and technique. Burn the tape, start over. we got to do it all again. Everybody, receivers running routes, the quarterbacks throwing the ball, the offensive line, how they're handling blitzes on defense, stopping the run, stopping the pass. I think, I think if I'm looking at things that legitimately concern me outside of like the fact that the Dolphins were terrible on Sunday, Tua's arm looked worse to me from a velocity perspective, which I do not love because that was not a strength of his game. I don't know if that was a product of the pressure that he was feeling or whatever. So that's just kind of on I'm going to bookmark that and see what it looks like as we move through the other games. And then I addressed this at the top, and you did as well. You made a great point about the front seven. Front seven was terrible. I don't know how else to put it. Maybe the linebackers were okay when I get into the tape. I don't know, but I know that the pass rush was non-existent for the most part. They got the one sack. I think they maybe had like one or two pressures outside of that. I think it's going to end up being like a 1 sack, 3 pressure game for the front seven. And look, I expected there to be problems in the secondary. I expected there to be a miscommunication touchdown, which apparently the Dolphins had with Storm Duck and Ifatu Melifonwu. Yeah. We can get into that if we want to, but I expected those types of things to happen, because it's the nature of the beast when you have the Dolphins corner room. But what I didn't expect is for a front seven that has Zach Sealer, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Matthew Judon, Kenneth Grant to be a non-factor in this game, whether it was versus the run or pressuring Daniel Jones. I mean, I think Daniel Jones played well. I'm not trying to take any credit away from Daniel Jones. He played a good game of football today, but I mean, the Dolphins didn't exactly make his life very challenging. They barely pressured him. I feel like every time he threw the ball, the receiver was open. He might have had like 2 tight window throws the entire game. So like I don't. So I think the front seven concerns me, and I am a little bit worried about Tua. The ball was not coming out the way that I like, even from an accuracy perspective. The velocity on it didn't look great to me. Again, dig into the tape tomorrow, but I think if you're looking for long-term concerns, those would be at the top for me. Because if this front seven plays like this every week, the Dolphins are going to win like 5 games this year. They'll have the worst defense in football and they'll win like 5 games. So it needs to be significantly better.
And I don't want to hear about the offensive line, and because yes, Tua was sacked 3 times. 2 of them were on blitzes, and the game book has a calls for 6 quarterback hits, which is not a huge amount. And there were a lot of plays where he had time to throw. The 2 picks did not come on plays where he was pressured. And on the second one, he just did not see. I'm going to butcher his first name. Laiatu dropped in coverage, and Tua didn't see him, and he was throwing to Malik and going.
I don't understand how he didn't see him there. If you drop back, right, and you're Tua, and he gets the ball out very quickly, right, and he throws it to a dropping line. But that's what I'm saying, right, is he held the ball, he moved out of the pocket, he's looking right there. I think he saw him, and he tried to thread the needle. I think he was pressing there. There's no way he doesn't see him. If it was a quick throw off the snap, I think so.
Okay, look at the replay. And by the way, there was another one that was almost picked by Bynum across the middle on the pass to like Ingold, where Bynum jumped it. So that was, and Bynum had a clear shot at it and dropped it.
Alec Ingold target 10 yards downfield in the middle of the field. Unserious, ridiculous, absurd. I'm sorry.
So you don't like it. You don't like it, in other words.
No, I like Alec Ingold, good football player. No reason he should be getting a target 10 yards downfield on a traditional route. If you scheme something up for him and he's running into open space and everybody forgot about him, be my guest. I thought I was going insane. I thought I misread the number. I thought it was Tanner Connor. I thought it was 80 instead of 30. I watched it again. It was 30. It's like, what are we like? That to me is just like, what are we doing? Like we're out thinking ourselves on that one.
No, without question. And another concern, if we're going to look down the road, is again, this is not a deep team, and now we have to worry about James Daniels. Mike McDaniel, by the way, did not have updates after the game on the status of either James Daniels, who sustained a pectoral injury on, as you mentioned, on the third offensive snap, didn't come back, ruled out coming out of halftime, and I'm going to cross my fingers that it's not what happens very often in those situations where the word torn comes into play. And if that's what it is, he's kind of done for the season. So let's hope that's not that. And then with Storm Duck, it's an ankle injury. Again, we'll find out more on Monday. We also should mention the Dolphins didn't finish the game without also Benito Jones with an oblique injury and Austin Jackson with a toe injury. It was Larry Borum at right tackle at the end of the game. I'm not going to speculate whether it's an aggravation of the injury that kept him out of practice for a couple of weeks or the severity. We'll know more in the next couple of days, but clearly this is a team can't have injuries because it's not a very deep team. And the Dolphins played the entire game with Keon Smith at right guard. From what I could observe, wasn't terrible. Again, like I said, I'm not pinning the offensive line in terms of the culprits here. The offensive line was pretty low down the list, and so was the secondary, even though they gave up some completions, although there was a nasty miscommunication on the touchdown, which was pretty clear. And Mike McDaniel acknowledged bad communication when Storm Duck lets Michael Pittman go behind him, thinking if he's going to come over. And by the way, look at the replay. And if he goes over quickly to take Pittman down the sideline, Tyler Warren's already behind Jordan Brooks. I believe it was Jordan Brooks in the middle of the field. And maybe Daniel Jones throws over there instead, and it's a touchdown anyway. So, who knows? But my bottom line again is, to me, the offensive line was not the biggest culprit. The fact is the Dolphins' big name guys who need to come up big for this team to go anywhere didn't do anything. Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, very quiet. Zach Sealer was very, very quiet. Minka was very quiet. Jordan Brooks had a lot of tackles, but were there many that were impactful? Not really. Those are guys who need to shine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best play that Minka made all day was not getting called for DPI in the end zone on the Tyler Warren play, because that was probably DPI. That might have been his best play of the day. But yeah, I mean, I think for the Storm Duck touchdown, to me, I'm not 100% sure who's at fault there. Originally, I was leaning towards Melifonwu, and then I watched the play a couple more times. I think it's probably more Duck than anybody, if I had to guess. I think in that situation, given that coverage, he's supposed to carry a little bit more than he did instead of just dropping immediately. But again, that comes back to very specific zone coverage responsibilities, right? And those coverages change based on who runs what routes from what position on the offense. So your point about Tyler Warren's very valid. Right? In that situation, if Tyler Warren threatens deep middle, maybe that is not Melifonwu's responsibility. The only people who know that 100% for sure are Anthony Weaver and the people in the Dolphins building. I think you could split it 50-50, whatever it ends up looking like. I think, again, it comes down to what McDaniel said. It's communication. And I think what's especially disappointing to me is a player like Storm Duck, who's been in this system. He was essentially a starting corner, the only one outside of Cater before he got hurt, who was assumed to be a player who was going to play a lot of football this year. I know they didn't hand him the starting job, and I get that, but he was kind of expected to be the guy for a while, and he's gotten plenty of reps. He played in the preseason. This is not, Jack Jones, who got a bit of a late start, or Rasul Douglas, who just showed up, like 2 weeks ago. Like, Duck's been here, done that. This is not a new scheme for him, and I think even if you go away from that play, I thought Duck had a couple of really bad plays in coverage before that, where he was not in his proper positioning. He wasn't winning at the catch point. Like, it's disappointing. It's a player that you're betting on to be better than he's supposed to be. That was the whole thing at corner. And I know that you can probably put the secondary a little bit further down on the list. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that at all, but they were not good today either. And I don't know that that's going to get better. I have some I think you can have faith that maybe the front seven won't be as bad as they were today. There's just too much talent there for them to be as bad as they were today. But I don't know that the secondary is going to get any better. I really don't. They are doing a lot of communication stuff, and these guys don't have the talent to make up for communication lapses. They just don't. And so if they're not perfect, they're going to give up a lot of plays like the Michael Pittman touchdown.
Yeah, and the other part of it too, I think we discussed this heading into the season, that the pass rush needs to impact opposing quarterbacks for the Dolphin defense to have success. And by the way, the number of quarterback hits, according to the official game book, is 2. The sack by Bradley Chubb. Man, now you've been polite. That's very polite. The sack by Bradley Chubb, and the other one was Jason Marshall Jr., with the only 2 quarterback hits. And a quarterback hit is hitting the quarterback, as it says, hitting the quarterback either while or immediately after he throws the ball where you're not flagged. So to get your hands on the quarterback twice in a game when you're supposed to have this great pass rush, no, not going to do it. So I really don't know what else there is to say other than checking out. I think we're going to go straight to check out what you find folks who are watching here have to say about this abomination. Again, there was in terms of margin. Oh, I'd have to go back and look. I wrote a story about all the season openers a little while back. 59-10 is the one that's the most lopsided loss, but 59-10 was against Baltimore, which was a playoff contender heading into the season, and this was the quote-unquote rebuilding, resetting, tanking year of 2019, which made it a little bit more understandable. This game was like, and I picked the Colts to win this game, as you guys may know, and don't hate me for it. I said it before. I had bad vibes about this team. There are too many things going on there during training camp, too many injuries where a lot of play, and I don't want to put on injuries, but it wasn't as smooth heading into the regular season. And I also thought the Colts were massively underrated by a lot of folks. So, okay, let's jump into the comments, see what you find folks have to say. And as usual, thank you for being with us, for joining us. Please like, comment, subscribe. And as important, or even more important, check out the written content at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. So Birthday Salami was a good one. Hey, Birthday, how are you? Or Salami, I don't know, or BS. No, sorry.
Not BS.
You do not want to overreact, but given the narrative to come out and execute like this is alarming. How long has it been since the team looked prepared? Maybe some fans or Ramsey, D. Elliott, and even Tyreek an apology. And how much do I hate? Because I mean, full disclosure, if you've been following the podcast, you know I'm not a fan of Jalen Ramsey. He's a hell of a player, and I've said this. I think Dolphin fans on his way out the door underrated him as a player. Just not necessarily a fan of the guy, and he wound up with the 4th down pass breakup to secure the Steelers' victory against the Jets today. And by the way, in that game, Jonnu Smith had a touchdown catch. And in Jacksonville's game against Carolina, which may still be going on after they had a really long delay, Hunter Long, remember the name? Hunter Long.
That was a jump scare. I had Red Zone on in the other screen while I had the Dolphins game on, and they were like, Hunter Long touchdown, and I was like, oh man, that's just the bad vibes were out in full force today.
Yeah. Okay. So Salami, to your point, maybe some fans or Ramsey, D. Elliott, and even Tyreek an apology. I guess Tyreek for saying the team needed some dogs, and now Ramsey for whatever comment. No, he didn't make any comments. Well, he made the rotten orange comment or statement through Instagram, and then Deshaun Elliott keeps talking to Dolphins. I think soft and bad culture. Again, it's one game. It looked bad. If it continues that way, I don't know about owing them an apology, but go ahead.
To me, this didn't even look like they were. I mean, yeah, they played soft because they got beaten up in the trenches. I understand that. But to me, this was like last year's team, right? It was, people not being in the right place who are very talented. This year, it's, players who we have a lot of question marks about who are just not executing. Like, to me, this looked like an execution problem more than it looked like a culture and toughness problem. So I don't know. Do they owe those players an apology? I don't know. I don't think so personally, not yet, at least. I mean, if things really, snowball here, maybe. But to me, it just looked like an execution problem, right? Like I know people are going to be upset about, defenses have caught up to Mike McDaniel's offense. And it's like, dude, the offense had 25 plays in this game. Like they turned the ball over 3 times almost instantly on drives. Like I think it's execution more than a lot of
Except the part that was alarming to me again is everything in the passing game is short. It's like, my word, it's over it already. This is an interesting one here, Salami. Also want to thank the Colts for controlling the clock so I did not have to see our $2 million quarterback much. Sincerely, some guy eating potato chips. That's funny. You know what you did there. That's funny.
That's funny.
Again, he played like crap. Wasn't all on him. Trey Hendricks, should we have drafted Tyler Warren instead of Kenneth Grant? I know this guy over here is going to say absolutely yes.
No, it's too soon. It's too soon. I think if you were looking for an instant impact player, a tight end is always going to put up more statistics than a defensive tackle. That pick wasn't about that. And so maybe, I really like Tyler Warren. I'm pretty sure I got on this very podcast and said I would take him at 13 a couple of times in the spring, but I think it's a bit too early to victory lap that. And Grant, off the broadcast, I don't think Kenneth Grant played well. I'm not going to try and sit here and tell you that he did, but I'm going to guess it's not as bad as I think it is when I get into the tape. But I just think it's too early.
No, I agree, but I also think for year one, this is Trey. Please do not make an assessment even at the end of the 2025 season, because I'm going to guess Tyler Warren might be offensive rookie of the year. He's going to be used a lot by the Colts in a lot of different ways, and he's going to be a lot more impactful. This is one of those. Let's wait 2-3 years on the road to see if Kenneth Grant becomes a player the Dolphins are hoping he becomes. Because I think early on, I think his impact's going to be pretty minimal. So this is one of those for the future.
Agreed.
Noel, my friend, thank you very much for the contribution, Noel. Thank you to everyone who contributes to the show. Very, very much appreciated. The game didn't really surprise me. Just wasn't expecting them to be so unprepared on so many levels. Yeah, and this is the part too. This is what happens is in the post-game media session, Mike McDaniel and coaches are asked this all the time. Did the Colts do anything that took you off guard? And the first time, or no, it has happened. No, you know what? From coaches, I don't recall the last time that coaches said, yeah, and they threw a lot of things at us we never saw coming. That basically suggests that you did not prepare properly. So the coach is going to be telling you the answer is always going to be the same as it was with Mike McDaniel. No, we practiced against everything they're going to throw at us. It was just a matter of execution. So, but were they unprepared? Was it a lack of preparation that Tua sailed the pass to Tyreek? I don't think so.
I think it was execution to me. I know that McDaniel is doing the coach speak thing there, as you pointed out, and I'm not saying he isn't, but again, maybe my opinion changes when I look at the tape. But I mean, you look at the Kenny Moore strip sack play where he comes on the slot blitz. I mean, Achane just missed him. I don't really know. There's not a ton of prep that goes in there. Like Achane knew it was his guy. He just didn't see him in time, and he didn't hit him, and so he got a free run at Tua. That's execution to me. The prep's there. I agree with you on the Tyreek Hill interception. How much prep is that? We've seen Tua hit that ball 90 times, 100 times in the past 3 years. He just sailed it, dude. It was just bad execution. So, look, I'm not saying that they looked prepared per se. I'm just saying if I had to balance the scales, I'd say 70-30 execution versus preparation. They just played terrible. They were really bad in just about every facet.
I will say this also, because I've noticed this a habit the past couple of years, is Tua's got to be a lot better when you're scrambling to get away from pressure. Like the sack from Kenny Moore, he wasn't going to avoid it, but can you now run with the ball in one hand while you're trying to moving up in the pocket? Seriously. Not great. And the other sack on the blitz, if you saw, is Nick Cross came over a little bit late, and Austin Jackson's immediate block was a double team the guy to his left, and all of a sudden he sees Nick Cross running, and he's like, oh, got to get him, and wasn't quick enough to pivot around. So not great. Matt O, thank you very much, Matt O. It's only week 1, but McDaniel has not come off as an offensive guru to me in the ages. Feels like the Chip Kelly Eagles. One really fun year, but collapsed after team adjusted. Hope to be wrong. Well, the only thing I would say is two fun years, successful years for the offense in 2022 and 2023. But there's perhaps some validity to the overall point. Fish Pilot, thank you very much. Can't pay a guy like me the way they paid him and expect to be a good team. He's not the biggest problem, but he sure is any sort of solution. That ship has sailed. They paid him. I didn't like giving him that kind of contract, but as somebody once said, the market is the market, and the Dolphins decided they were all in on Tua, and so they were going to give him what all the major quarterbacks or the big quarterbacks who were getting contracts were going to get. I don't like this notion of paying that kind of money to a quarterback unless he's an elite difference maker, which I don't believe Tua is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to live in the world that you just described, but unfortunately, that is not the world that we live in. It is what it is. The quarterback. I think here's the thing with Tua's contract, right? Is everyone's going to be really upset about it today, and I am not saying that they're wrong, or I'm not saying that they're wrong about the assessment of Tua not being a ceiling raiser as quarterback. I would agree with that point, actually. Here's the thing with the Tua contract. It's really just not that bad of a deal. Like, it's really not. It's not. There are worse quarterback contracts out there, and the Dolphins can get out of it sooner than other teams are going to be stuck with quarterbacks of equal caliber. So I think, look, it's not the ideal outcome. Nobody wants to hear that. There are teams who have similar caliber quarterbacks to Tua who are going to be stuck in their contracts longer than the Dolphins are going to be forced to be stuck with Tua.
Well, technically speaking, they're kind of stuck with him 2025 and 2026.
I know.
Well,
there are going to be teams stuck with similar caliber quarterbacks into 2029. I'm just saying it's going to Purdy, similar caliber quarterback.
I thought they had an out earlier than that. I thought they had an out earlier.
I think it might be 27 or 28. Goff, I feel the same way. Those guys have outperformed Tua in the playoffs, so maybe this is me just coping. I don't know. Like, if you're going to sign that contract, I think it's good that they have an out in 26. Is it later than I would have preferred? Sure, but I think you have to pay these guys. You can't just let them walk. You can't. You lose your job if you let them walk.
And I don't want to get into a discussion. My whole thing, because somebody else in the media who shall remain nameless, but who you probably know if you've been following the podcast, is every time I brought up the idea of let him play on the 50-year option was always, well, who's a better option? To me, it's not about who's a better option right now, because there were no better options right now, except when you play in a conference that has Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, and Burrow. I don't think if you have a good quarterback who's not to that level, I don't know that you stop looking all the time and say, okay, this is good enough. This is as good as we're going to do right now, as opposed to keep looking and looking and looking. And to me, the way to go would have been the 50-year option. Dolphins didn't go that route. They were all in on Tua. They continue to be all in on Tua. He's going to be a lot better in future weeks than he was today. And he's still overall, I would think, a good quarterback. Again, how far can the Dolphins go? We shall see. Evan Bergman with a super sticker. Thank you very, very much, Evan. Much appreciated. Yeah, see. Christopher Small. Poop, how will Omar defend Tua? Speak of the aforementioned. You know how he's going to do it? He's going to say James Daniels left the game after 3 offensive snaps. That's going to be the cry, the rallying cry. And like I said, the offensive line did not lose this game or sink the offense any way, shape, or form. Evan, again, thank you very much for the contribution. Much appreciated. Have the Dolphins' playoff chances dropped after the loss, or do you still have confidence? What's the latest on Tyreek Hill and Zeke Biggers? Zeke Biggers was just healthy and active, so there's no latest there. And I'm not surprised. I thought Matthew Butler was every bit as – I know there's some folks who are surprised that Matthew Butler made the 53. He actually performed pretty well. And Zeke Biggers, for the promise that he showed in training camp in the preseason, is still a rookie 7th-round pick. And it wasn't like he showed promise. It wasn't like he was like, oh, my Lord, this guy's got to be in the lineup. And then Tyreek Hill, I know he got into the medical tent. Not exactly sure why, but he came back into the game. So I don't know if there was some sort of issue to be concerned about. We shall obviously keep up on it and check out what the injury report looks like on Wednesday. Nick, thank you very much for the contribution. Hope the team can figure this out, or it will be a miserable year as a fan. McDaniel gone after week 4 if they're 0-4?
It's a better question for you because you have the history of covering the Dolphins. I mean, because my knee-jerk reaction is I don't think Stephen Ross fires a coach in the middle of the year, but I'm not committed to that.
Nobody has.
I know he has. I just don't think if you had I would say 51-49. To me, it's truly a coin flip. So I feel like this is a better question for you because I don't have the institutional knowledge that you do.
It would have to be really bad the next 3 weeks.
Right.
And the other part of it, though, is, mind you, the next 3 weeks are against AFC East opponents. It's New England at home, at Buffalo, Jets at home. If they lose all 3 games by double digits, I would say it's on the table. But generally speaking, those coaching changes, if they occur midseason, will occur at the bye, which is what happened in 2015 when Joe Philbin was fired after the team came home, or while the team came home from London, and after a loss against the Jets. I think it was against the Jets. So we shall see. But I would, again, the way the Dolphins looked against the Colts is not the way they're going to look every week. I'd be very, very surprised if they started off 0-4. In fact, they got a very favorable matchup coming up against the Patriots. I didn't like this matchup. I do like the next matchup. I can't wait for Omar. Omar's getting shots and he's not even out here. Omar, if you're watching, they're coming for you. Birthday salami again. Thank you very much. Can't wait for Omar to praise Tua's completion percentage. Tua's completion percentage wasn't actually very good today.
Yeah, it was 14 of 24 or something.
14 of 23. Let's check out the old.
I get the old calculator.
Let's see who can get it first.
Oh, I didn't know it was a race.
14, 23. 61%.
Yep. Got to round up.
It's not great. It's not great, especially for 114 yards. The passer rating is the one that since Omar is very, very big on that, it was 51.7, which actually was the lowest of Tua's career in a game. The only game that was worse was against Buffalo in 2021 when he was knocked out in the first drive by AJ Epinesa. So for a full game, that was the worst. Matt, thank you very much. Best news for Tua is that our backup is somehow Zach Wilson. No kidding. Thanks for the streams. Always help post-loss. We are therapy for Dolphin fans after a game like this. By all means, go ahead.
That's the goal.
What?
That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah.
No, vent away. If you can't vent to us, who can you vent to? I mean, and it was butt ugly.
Yeah.
Christopher Small, thank you very much. When will Reek quit? Why would he quit? He's got too much money on the line to quit. When will he go off? That's a different question. If it keeps happening, this is only one game. Tyreek was 4 catches, 40 yards, long of 21, which was the longest pass play of the day. Brett McIntyre, thank you very much, Brett. Oof, really rough play calling into it. Just look excruciatingly indecisive. Poop, you called it, though. Tip of the hat, buddy. I didn't call it 33-8. But I had just.
You were more right than I was, if that makes you feel any better.
And by the way, I'm going to point this out right now, because I had a tweet on it. I took down the tweet because I didn't see the video, and that was bad on my part. But supposedly the University of Miami head coach gave some crap to a student reporter from the school paper because he did a prediction before the game and he predicted Kansas to win and Mizzou won. And immediately before taking questions, he kind of called out the guy for predicting against his own team. And my point to that is, if you guys want me to pick the Dolphins every single solitary game, I'll go ahead and get it. But you'll then have no idea if I'm legitimately thinking they can win. The idea of a prediction is I'm going to tell you what I think, and if I'm picking against the Dolphins, I hope I'm wrong, but I had bad vibes about this game. I was expecting a much better performance by the Dolphins, but okay. No, thank you again, my friend. While I feel sorry for fans and a bit for Ross, I really feel sorry for the Dolphins sports media. It sucks to try and dig out that piece of almond roca from the cat box. Okay. Alrighty then.
I'm not sure about that one. That one might go over my head a bit.
I could be wrong, but if I'm misinterpreting it, no, please tell me. I think almond roca might be a piece of turd, I guess. That's how I'm interpreting it. I don't know. I could be wrong. Plenty more comments. David, I had Colts 23-20. There you go. The Dolphins are the new Giants. Don't know the correlation there. What's the correlation? Peter McDowell, should they have played Tua more in the preseason? It looked like he has regressed. Always something with Tua in terms of excuses. Feels like his last season with us. I would be shocked if it was his last season with the Dolphins because he's got a $54 million guaranteed next year. For the Dolphins to release him, it's $79 million of dead cap money. That's painful. That's painful. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think it's too early to kind of just cast Tua out as a decent starter. You know, I mentioned this at the top of the show. I am bookmarking the arm strength a bit and gonna really try to pay a little bit more attention to that because it didn't look good today. I thought some balls really floated on him that don't always float on him. He's never had a great arm, and I understand that, but it looked worse than not good, if that makes sense. So again, I don't know if this will be his last season with the team. I think what I would tell you is that I think if the Broncos can get out of the Russell Wilson contract in the way that they did, if the Dolphins really want to, it's a total disaster. I mean, a total disaster. They can get out of the Tua contract. There's a reason they didn't restructure to free up more money this year.
Okay, well, here are the numbers. Okay, and you just disappeared on me. Why did you disappear on me? If they it just disappeared on me. What's going on here? Wow. If they, like I said, if they release him, let me try to get back to it. I hate it when you do this to me. Here we go. Okay, his cap number currently is 56.4. If they release him before June 1st, his cap number goes to 79.2. So your cap savings is minus 22.8. If they release him post June 1, his cap number is 62.4. So his cap number actually goes up $6 million. Now trading him is a different story. But then you have to find a trading partner. So we shall see. And again, this is a discussion for down the road because
it's too early. It's one game. I think look, how much better would you guys have felt if he completed that pass to Tyreek that he sailed, maybe had an extra touchdown? They lose 33-14. He just has the one interception. Do you feel like he's worthless? I don't know. I'm legitimately asking, like I'm not ready to I don't know. I've never described myself as a Tua defender, but I'm not ready to say that he's not going to be, the quarterback into next season after one game against the Colts. It's just too early, but not a good start, obviously.
No, correct. I agree. I want to bring this one up because I like it. Andrew, no, that's not the one. I like that one too, but that wasn't the one because they moved too fast. So I'm going to come back to this one right here. Here we go. Fam J, greatly appreciate Poop's unbiased opinion. It's what I'm here for. This is why. And again, as I've indicated in comments before, this is why this is not a fan podcast. It's a journalist podcast. I've covered the Dolphins on a full-time basis since 1989. I know about this team. I know about the history and all that. I know the ins and outs of the team, but I'm not necessarily a fan. There are plenty of fan podcasts out there. If you want the more cheering for the team and we're all in this together type of thing, and there are a lot of good ones as well. This is a different kind of podcast, and I hope if you're here, that's because you appreciate what I bring. How's that for a little?
There you go.
Yeah. LFP. Hoop, the O-line was a problem this game. Not the only problem, but definitely a big problem. And this is where my friend, I'm going to disagree with you because I didn't see two under duress an unreasonable amount of time. Sorry. If you're looking for Eagles offensive line on every snap, no. I didn't think the offensive line was porous in the least. But you're entitled.
Yeah, it didn't jump out to me either. We'll see what the tape has. I know a couple of the sacks I would blame on the running back or the tight end or even just like the play call. So the O-line didn't stick out bad to me, but we'll see. It's kind of, that one's like you really got to like watch the tape like 100 times to like really figure out responsibilities and stuff. So but I'm with you. It didn't stand out as a big problem to me on initial watch.
And even the fourth down incompletion where the play ended with Tua under duress, he had some times he just couldn't find anybody open. Like the first year, and even he patted the ball down and kept looking downfield. There was nobody open, and eventually collapsed. And that's not on the offensive line. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and then the one where Buckner pressured him, somebody else got the sack, but Buckner ran right through Tanner Connor and Devon Achane. The way that the Colts had set up their front, they got that matchup. They schemed that matchup up. And if you're the Dolphins, I mean, that's your worst blocking running back and your worst blocking tight end on the Colts' best defensive lineman. They got out schemed there. I don't really like. It's not on the offensive line. They did their job. It was a full slide. They got out schemed. It happens. So it's too easy to blame the offensive line for everything. I don't know that they were the problem today, but
and even I saw somebody put on Twitter before the game, like offensive line and defensive line, like warming up against each other, and it goes, those two units hold the key to the season. I'm like, really? I mean, I really no. Sorry, that's too easy. I'm sorry, that's too easy. Then this is why, if that were the case, then go spend $30 million on offensive linemen all over the place. It's not, obviously, if you have dominant lines, it makes things a lot easier.
You're trying to what? I'd spend $30 million on the offensive line all over the place. Why not?
You can when you're spending that kind of money on Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. But then again, I say this, and I keep harping on the fact that the Dolphins completely messed up in 2021 when they took Jalen Waddle, who's a good player, just not a game in, game out difference maker the way Penei Sewell is. I just, to me, it boggles my mind how they blew that one so insanely when Penei Sewell was as clean a prospect as there was in 2021. And there you go. You have your foundational piece for the offensive line.
I think Sewell's my highest graded left tackle of all time.
Pre-draft. Well, you play right tackle, or left tackle at Oregon because he plays right tackle for the Lions.
Yeah, but I think he was a left tackle at Oregon, if I'm not off the top of my head. It doesn't matter. He's my highest graded tackle. I don't differentiate. I've been doing this since 2019. My highest graded tackle. That's pretty good
prospect as you can get. And I don't get. And then wide receivers, generally, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but they're a lot closer to dime a dozen than difference making offensive linemen. But again, to my original point, it's too simplistic to say offensive line, defensive line, that's it, nothing else matters. Or that's the biggest key. I mean, come on.
I think for this team, I think that's a fair argument. I do. What was the narratives about this team coming into the year? They can't stop the run and they can't run the ball. Where does that come from? The trenches on both sides of the ball. Right? They're not tough enough. For this team in this specific case, I agree. We talked about at the front of the show. Where was the pass rush? Where was this defensive line? If this defensive line doesn't show up, the whole defense collapses. So to me, that they hold the keys to the defense. The defensive line absolutely does.
But what's not just, well, again, are we differentiating between the defensive line, the interior guys, and your edge defenders? Who
I think they both do. I think they both do. You got to get pass rush from both of those spots.
But then that becomes seven. That becomes seven of your 11 the defensive players. So of course, yeah. But on offense, to me again today, on offense, the reason the Dolphins sucked was not because of the offensive line.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Okay,
yeah.
It wasn't all about it. Let's see what we got here. The signs have been there all off-season dysfunction. Who in their right mind would trade for Tua with his contract number? Here's the thing, though, unless I'm reading his contract wrong, a lot of the contract is signing bonus, which the Dolphins have already paid. So an acquiring team would be on the hook for a lot less money than the Dolphins are on the hook, which is another part of why the Dolphins would be hesitant to trade him, regardless of cap consideration, because they're still, they still paid him a lot of money. What a great contract for Tua. Thanks, McDaniel. It is a great contract for Tua, without question. The Finn's gone from the greatest show on surf to Cam Cameron level of crap. Oh, that's not quite Cam Cameron level. If you remember the Cam Cameron era, that was like, ooh. And I think what I would say right now, though, if there are Dolphin fans of the thumbs like this, the thumbs down, hey guys, we got to turn the thumb this way. That's Cam Cameron. For those not familiar, Google it. Cam Cameron, Ted Ginn draft speech. It's
I have some homework.
It's an all-timer. I mean, it is one of the funkiest press conferences I have ever seen. And quick history lesson, the way this was, the Dolphins had a draft party inside the bubble at Nova Southeastern University where Cam Cameron was going to talk to the fans after the first round pick was made. And the fans, Dolphins had the number 9 pick, the fans were clamoring for Brady Quinn. And when the Dolphins picked Ted Ginn Jr. out of Ohio State, they went nuts, and not in a good way. And Cam Cameron went out, met his obligation to or his commitment to speak to the fans despite boos all over the place. And he kept doing the press conference or the speech. It wasn't a press conference, the speech, while being booed the entire time. And then made some comments that probably didn't help matters when he's talking about drafting. We didn't just draft Ted Ginn, we drafted the Ginn family. And lo and behold, Dolphin fans who wanted to have Brady Quinn should realize that Ted Ginn Jr. had a much, much, much better NFL career than Brady.
I was about to say. Here's a fun game for you. How old do you think I was when Cam Cameron was the head coach of the Dolphins?
That was 18 years ago, so you're probably like 5.
I was 7, 2007.
If you don't remember that season, you're the better for it, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. The first season I remember very well is it was the 1-15 is like the one that I have like the best memory of. So
that's the one.
That was that season. I don't remember Cam Cameron coaching. I remember the win against the Ravens very well. Mm-hmm. That's like a flashbulb memory for me. But outside of that, yeah, don't remember Cam Cameron. But hey, he was right about Ted Ginn. So,
Greg Sousa here with a hot take here. By the way, gang, the nickname Poop, which has a long history. I don't feel like getting into it right now. Maybe I'll explain at some point. I don't feel like doing it right now. It's taken from the first 4 letters of my last name. So be polite. It's not P-O-O-P. Seriously. Poop and Dante, stop your stuff with Tua. Just admit he's not a good fit for the NFL. He can't sneak or run. He can't throw on the fly. He is done in the NFL, in my opinion. Move on, Vince. Well, number 1, they're not moving on. Number 2, let's not pretend like the dude hasn't had success in the NFL, and the Dolphins haven't had success as an offense at times with him at quarterback. And this is coming from the supposed Tua hater. Okay?
That's true.
I don't think he's elite. I think there are limitations. I've said that from the time he got drafted. Yeah. But to suggest that he's a scrub, I think that's a bridge too far.
I agree. No, total agreement. I think it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like he's certainly not Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, whoever, Patrick Mahomes, whatever top flight quarterback you want, but he's good. And when he's healthy and when he's right, the Dolphins can win games and have a high-powered offense. It is what it is.
Yeah, and he just happened to have a clunker today, and it happened. He's not the first good quarterback to have a clunker. But Matt, there we go. The Cam Cameron season was followed by the best season after, so there was always hope on the horizon. LOL. Yeah, that season, that 2008 was funky, and I'm going to tell the story history lesson. I've said it before, and I hope my former Dolphin Digest colleague, Bill Daly, if you're ever around, hop on here to please vouch for me so people know I'm not making this up. I don't make things up, but this is going to sound like I'm making it up. So if you remember this season, the Dolphins drafted Chad Henne in the second round of the draft that year after taking Jake Long first. They had John Beck as a second-year quarterback after taking him in the second round last year. And then they had Josh McCown, veteran who they signed as a free agent. And so and as they go into camp, the competitions between those 3 quarterbacks, and the Dolphins had made some moves, acquired a bunch of good guy veterans in the offseason, including Jason Ferguson and Anthony Fasano from the Dallas Cowboys in a trade that Bill Parcells engineered. And then the Jets go out and get Brett Favre, and they're like, Chad Pennington, thank you for your services. We don't need you anymore. Waived him. Well, this was in August. The Dolphins quickly jump on Chad Pennington, and then first practice, they're inside the bubble, and it's like the practice went from a mishmash on offense to everything. I mean, like this, the first practice he's out there. And we walk out of practice, and I told my colleague Bill David, I'm like, dude, they're going to make the playoffs with this guy. And lo and behold, they made the playoffs. Then again, they made the playoffs in large part because they unleashed a wildcat that year, and Ricky Williams went nuts. Anyway, we digress, and let's go back here. We're about 5 minutes away from reaching our hour mark, which is usually when we're going to cut it off. I got game AJ in New Jersey. I was at that first and last game of 2008, and as I don't need to tell you,
cool.
both games against the Jets.
Pretty cool. Chad Pennington, my first Dolphins jersey when I was a kid. How about
that? Let me get it at that. Oh, this is a good point I want to bring up right here. If I can find it. Is it right here? Yeah. Mac Townsend, no change from last year, still burning up timeouts, etc. Burning up a timeout on a 2-point conversion after you finally score a touchdown, and you're going to need every second you got. Yeah, not good. Not good. Not that it mattered in the end, but still. Carl Hurd, let's not forget the market is the market. So the market for a glorified backup QB is $50 million plus. He's not a glorified QB.
You're so close to sticking the landing, Carl. You were so close. You had it. You just screwed it up at the end.
Sorry. Let's see what else we got. Jay, receivers all do the same thing too. It's completely dependent on everything around him, and the offense can adjust when defenses take away the speed. That's an issue. Yep. Jim Hall, Dolphins fans love to crown players before they do anything. The pass rush the draft class, they got absolutely nothing from Greer's great draft class, 0. I will tell you, I did notice a couple of nice plays by Jason Marshall Jr. He's the only one I saw, I think, among the rookies. I didn't notice Kenneth Grant, Jonas Savainaya, although that's one of those where I'd have to rewatch the game to pay attention to him only. Dante Trader had a couple of nice plays as well. Ali Gordon was barely used, but no.
It's too early. It's one game. It's one game, and your top 3 picks are linemen. They're not going to show up in the stat sheet. Okay, Kenneth Grant's not stuffing the stat sheet. Jonah's not stuffing the stat sheet. Jordan Phillips is not stuffing the stat sheet. Like these guys, like it's too early. It's one game, and you can't come out and expect a rookie interior defensive lineman times 2 and a guard to, pop off there just jumping off the screen to you, right? Unless they come out and Kenneth Grant gets 4 sacks, which is like, if that was your expectation for that player, then you need to recalibrate. So it's too early. It's one game. I still have a lot of confidence in the Dolphins draft class being impactful. How impactful? We'll see as the season goes. But I still have confidence in this group being a decent group of players who contributes to a team that is successful at some point. Not super vague, but that's as good as you're gonna. Yeah, that's as good as you're gonna get after 1 week. I don't know. I don't think you just throw the entire summer out the window because they played bad against the Colts in week 1. It's ridiculous. No,
I agree. But by the same token, because you're talking about Dolphin fans always love to crown. Yeah, that's what fans do.
Yeah,
because it's always the shiny new thing that you don't know the warts. Like when you see or hear about flashes in training camp practices of the preseason, and it's very easy to get overly giddy. And I think sometimes we as media members can be guilty in abetting that with some praise that may be, over the top a little bit at times. I was like, to me, the whole summer when I keep hearing that like this front seven is going to be one of the best in the NFL, I was like, potentially, but can we just slow down the roll a little bit here? We shall see. Yeah, a lot of tour hate today. So can we imagine having a starting QB that you can't run a sneak with or pass outside the hashes with? A complete joke. He can throw outside the hashes, not down the field because of the arm limitation. But again, those were kind of there. Like the arm hasn't gotten much worse or significantly lesser than it was early on. And he, again, led the NFL in passing yards in 2023.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't
he's always had those limitations. They're not new.
correct.
And I think the mobility thing, if you go back and watch him in Alabama, I think you probably feel like he might have been able to move a little bit better in the NFL than he has. But I think since the hip injury, it just hasn't been a thing, for him really. And all the other injuries, like he has to stay in the pocket and get the ball out as fast as possible. He's too injury prone. Like,
no, correct. But here's the thing is I would tell you, to me, his best game scrambling in the NFL was his second start.
Was that the Arizona game?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I haven't seen it since then, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And especially since the concussion issue started happening, which was, a couple of years after the fact. And now, again, do you guys really want him scrambling all over the place?
No.
Yeah, no. So, you know what? I think that's going to wrap it up. He is Dante Collinelli. Check out his fine work at MiamiDolphinsOnTheSide.com. All the content for free. That's going to do it for this hour of the All Dolphins podcast post-game show. Thanks so much for everyone for joining us. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, smash that like button, as they say. Comment. By all means, I respond to a lot of comments, more so when they're well thought out. Hold on. I got one more. I got to check this out. Daniel. Poop, I must apologize. I thought you were being too negative, saying the front seven might not be as good as expected, but you are right. I must bend the knee. Thank you, Daniel. No, again, it might be. I just, to me, the idea of crowning it was just way premature, way too early. And this is where me not being a fan would tell you I've seen it, what it's supposed to look like, and I would say, simmer down a little bit, guys. Whereas if a fan podcast would tell you, yeah, those guys are going to kick ass and they're going to dominate and all that. And again, this is not me. If you guys, at times I get called a negative Nelly for always bringing out the other stuff. I'm just like trying to, present both sides equally and try to be fair and make expectations realistic. So, okay, that is going to do it. Second time. This time's for real. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back here tomorrow with all the latest. Hopefully, we get good injury news regarding James Daniels, Storm, Doug Benito, Jones, Austin Jackson. But the good news will not come as regarding this week 1 game because it's in the books and Dolphins lost 33-8. It's on to the New England Patriots at Hard Rock Stadium next Sunday, and we'll be here all week. Thanks everyone.